So this is a Sunday morning. You're here. That shows that you're serious about the matter. Now, welcome everyone, and a very good day to join us over here in this workshop. So before we begin, I just want to give you some idea like why we're here, what we want to discuss today, why we want to discuss these issues. Uh, so first, I would like you to know who am I, right? And why am I doing this? And why should you care? Why should you hear me out, right? And then we'll discuss the first step, just waking up. So it is almost like we're under a spell. We pretend that everything is fine, but you know what's happening all around us. Then we'll discuss about how we ended up here in this situation. And then we'll discuss what can we do to regain the ownership back of our own health. And finally, I will describe one process, one way that worked for me, and it's optional. I mean, you can take a look. It worked for me. You may find something else that's working better for you. That's a different story. But this is the overall structure of what we'll discuss today. And if you have any questions, you can uh, put it in the Q&A. So we have a Q&A section. You can find it uh, at the bottom of your Zoom panel. You can see it over there. You can ask a question. Either I will answer during the session or I will answer them at the end of the session. All right? All right, fantastic. So again, who am I? Right? Why I'm doing this and why should you hear me out? So I'm a scholar of science. Everything alive fascinates me. And I study everything, from microbes to plants to ecosystems. And I'm fascinated by everything alive, from micro scale of bacteria to the macro scale of ecosystems. And I have been fortunate enough to work and study and do my research ranging from places like South Pole, Antarctica, to remote forest areas, lakes in India. I mean, I went wherever I needed to study the life as it is. So I have earned my doctoral degree or PhD in biology from George August University of Göttingen in Germany with a full scholarship from European Commission. And I also got my MBA from Deakin University, Australia. As a career, professionally speaking, I have made my journey from a scholar of biological sciences to the researcher of personalized medicine to industrial R&D. So whatever it is, I am a scholar, a student of everything that is alive. So as I said earlier, like from micro scale of bacteria to macro scale of ecosystem. So everything fascinates me about anything alive. So this is what I have done all my life. I study microbes, bacteria, viruses, fungus, DNA, RNA, how they work, hormones, enzymes, signaling. So this is all I've done my entire life. But one thing I hadn't studied before I faced my own crisis is my own biology, my own body. Because at the end of the day, a living cell is a living cell. And you won't believe how similar these systems are. If you're talking about an amoeba or a cell from our own body, it's very, very similar. There are obviously differences, but it's more similar than you would imagine. But not just that. I was not just a scientist, curious scientist, I was a victim. Yeah. And not just obesity. So I had so many health conditions like high blood sugar, high blood pressure, severe constipation, and insomnia, anxiety. So what I say that I was a victim of so-called diseases of the civilization. So this is a long list. I was morbidly obese at 142 kgs with a BMI of more than 52. I had high blood pressure or hypertension. I had diabetes with HbA1c of more than 7, I think 7.8 or something. I had so bad constipation that I used to get blood in my stool. It was that bad. I had insomnia. I couldn't fall asleep. And even if I do, by some chance, I couldn't stay asleep. And along with that, I mean, I knew something is wrong. So I had anxiety, depression. I was in a desperate and really bad situation. And most common of these, yes, obesity. But in today's world, chronic illnesses like diabetes, heart disease, and even Alzheimer's, cancer, everything is like exploding right in front of us. No matter uh, we how much we can pretend that everything is fine, I wouldn't say so. But don't get me wrong, I'm quite astonished by the progress the medical science actually have made in dealing with acute issues, like for infection, for a cut, broken bone, a bullet wound, like for acute issues, yes, we have done fascinating job. For infectious disease, yes, we have done fascinating job, but not so much about chronic issues. So I will walk you through one by one. And honestly speaking, 2 hours is not good enough. It will take much longer to walk you through the things that I have learned, that I have discovered, that opened my eyes, honestly speaking. And another fun fact, the fight I'm going to fight is not an even one. So on one hand, it's me, just me alone. On the other hand, we have big pharma, big food. But uh, I'm willing to take this chance because I have seen how much suffering is actually there. And the way I came out of it, it's so simple. I will walk you through. Just stay with me for the next couple of hours. And it's too serious a topic. So I will obviously walk you through 3 stories. And the first story would be about an encounter that I had with a doctor at AIMS. Another quite funny and also sad incidents regarding a seatbelt issue. I had to get an extent. I will walk you through. And the final was a pretty serious crisis straight away. And this is the post, a social post that started everything. So once I found my way back to health, I just posted something on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I got, I received message from countless people desperate to seek help because they have already tried everything and they still couldn't figure out what went wrong. In any case, I will walk you through each step and I will tell you about all these 3 stories. So now it's a story time for the first one. So I will walk you through the stories. So it was 2007, 2008. It was Delhi, AIMS, and I was preparing for that uh, South Pole expedition, Antarctica. So I was standing in a medical exam hall, half naked, and a doctor very rudely and very insensitively told me that if you want to see your 30th birthday, you need to lose 30 kilo. But he had no good idea or no new idea like how to go about it. And I was like 27, 26, or I don't know, something like that. And he just told me like if I want to see my 30th birthday, I need to lose 30 kilo. But really no new advice that I haven't heard before or I haven't tried before. But yes, I was not dead yet, but I was not really living either. So I was on so many medications, but now I'm off all medications. So that was the first incident which actually got me thinking, like I'm doing everything that I'm being asked for from all other healthcare professionals, but why I'm not getting any better? So this is me. This is me at my, heaviest form, that is 142 kilograms. And within a year or so, I was able to drop like 58 kilograms from 148 to 84. And sometimes you will see that people will lose some weight, but they actually again gain some more back. Right. It's very common. I've seen it, I've done it also. But this is the best part. I'm still maintaining it after years. So it's not no side effect, no rebound. You just have to remember how we are supposed to live. It's very, very simple. I will obviously give you the whole story, like what happened. So yes, it is possible. And I genuinely believe that most of us don't have to really suffer. There is better way, it's possible, but you have to keep your mind open. Your mind is like a parachute. So it only works when it's open. Otherwise, you will drop straight to all the insights and knowledge. Nothing will work for you. First of all, you have to keep your mind open. But not just me or you. It's a global problem. Even after spending so much of taxpayers' money and everything, we're still not able to manage it. It's exploding. And in 2014, 39% of the adults aged 18 years and older, they already were overweight. 39% average. And out of that, around 40% for women, 38% for men. And that's a prediction for 2015, but it's already surpassed. Yeah. All right. So between 1980 and 2014, it's already doubled. And I'm not making this up. It's all available in the public domain. References are there. So what about India? Same thing. It's not just a global issue. It's a global issue. Same is true for India. What about diabetes? Yes, it's increasing. In spite of so many awareness and everything and guideline and treatment, it's increasing. And can you imagine 150% increase in emerging economies? That's the situation with diabetes. And again, I'm not making this up. It's already published. It's already there. You just have to keep your minds open and be curious enough, right? This is globally, and same is true again for India. Same is true. It's exploding, exploding. Look around. I mean, I'm sure you will know more than one person in your life suffering with diabetes. What about high blood pressure, hypertension? Yes, again, increasing in spite of so many guidelines, advice, and yeah, more than 30%, 32 in women, 34% in men. It's globally hitting us really, really bad. And hypertension is not just something you measure on your curve. It actually impacts how well you do with your uh, cardiovascular health also. It will impact a lot of things. Again, I'm not making this up. Whatever I say, there will be some evidence to back it up. So this is a publication, and yes, I mean it's reported. Everybody knows it actually. And same is true again for India. Same is true. These problems are exploding. What about heart diseases, cardiovascular diseases? Global trend increasing. There is no sign of slowing it down. We have reduced our salt intake. I don't know why. I will discuss it later. We have reduced our saturated fat, everything. Still, nothing is changing, and it's getting worse and worse. This is a global trend, and it's increased by 77%, globally. And again, I'm not making this up. Everything is available in the public domain. You just have to be curious enough to look it up. Same is true for India, not just globally. What about cancer? Same thing. Same thing. Almost 80% increase in cancer rate by between 1990 and 2019. And again, I'm not making this up. It's already there. Same is true for India, not just globally. Same is true for India. What about PCOS? Polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's one of the major cause of infertility in women, increasing globally, and it's increased by 21%, particularly the women of uh, reproductive age. And it is increasing the last decade, particularly. You can just take a look at the graph. And again, I'm not making this up. All of this is published. It's available. You just have to be curious. And also, I was lucky that I had that basic, training regarding biology. That's what I've done my entire life, study life. And again, it's true for India. What about autoimmune diseases? You have heard about this thing, right? If you haven't heard about it, you can put in the chat. Autoimmune disease. Have you heard of this thing before? Anyway, I will describe it later also if you don't know. Well, what it is that your own body is going to react against you. Auto, self, immune. So your immunity will work against you. And one of the diseases that is quite common nowadays is this one. This Crohn's disease is very common. Ulcerative colitis is very common. And IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, that is also quite common. Actually, all of them are getting common every day. And yearly rate of increase is like 19%. I don't know how long it will take. That will impact most of us pretty soon. And again, it's published. I'm not making this up. And again, not just global, same is true for India. But no matter how much we want to pretend that everything is all right, just take a look around. I don't think so. And one point you need to, understand that absence of a diagnosed disease is not the same as being healthy. I have seen both. I have lived both. I know the difference. And just merely staying alive and actually thriving, that is a huge difference. And as I said, like I have done both. So no matter how much we can pretend, there is a problem. You cannot hide from it. Look around. You will see all around. I mean, at least I know for my family, my friends, family, loved one, they are suffering. Even after following all the guidelines and advices that is most commonly followed. I followed it myself. I know the pain. I know the pain of chronic illness. I know how people actually suffer. So I am Dr. Biswas, and I have suffered for a long, long time. I have been a victim of morbid obesity, high blood sugar, blood pressure, fatty liver, severe constipation, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and many more. I have seen people all around me, my friends, my family, my loved ones, some known and some countless yet to be known fellow victims suffering from so many health conditions like cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, different form of various form of cancers, autoimmune conditions, thyroid issue, PCOS, infertility, and more chronic conditions. I have seen people suffer and weakly accept their situation even without asking why they are not getting any better, even after following all conventional advice. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can see it all around me, all around. So now I'm on a mission to liberate as many people as I can from the clutches of these diseases of civilization, as many as I can, as best as I can, for as long as I can. So I genuinely understand the true cost, the true suffering that comes from accepting these unnecessary, conditions as a just misfortune of health. It's not. It need not be so. We don't have to accept that, at least not after today, only by choice. Only by choice. So this is a situation where I was like, I was just like merely alive. I wanted to thrive, and I knew I had to make this journey. So I made it. But this is what you can see on the screen. That is just cosmetic changes. What is important? What is important is actually what happens inside. I will walk you through. First, I will walk you through my own results because there is no confidentiality or something. I'm free to use the way I want it. Then I can show you a couple of case studies, like people, those who actually have worked with, and with their consent, I can show you some of their results. Uh, but for my case, I can show you everything what happened with me. The first thing, body weight came down. So you can see the dates. It is, I think, like less than a year actually. I mean, it's not 58 kilo here. It will take some more time, but this is how body weight came down. Uh, Body fat came down. But more interestingly, your body fat can be subcutaneous, that is, behind, just right below your skin, or it could be visceral. So visceral means that it's inside your organs. So getting rid of that is actually quite, amazing. Getting just any body fat is fine, but getting rid of visceral fat is something I still consider amazing. And when people lose weight, it's not just the body fat. Most of them actually also lose muscle. But in this case, uh, my skeletal muscle protein actually went up. So I lost fat and gained muscle. So that 58 kilo loss, that also includes this gain of muscle as a weight. So I lost more fat than 58 kilo. You got my point, right? So are you with me right now? If you understand something or anything, you can just write in the chat as yes. And if you don't understand anything what I've discussed right now, you can put it in the question. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. But you can, raise your hand and ask questions anytime, or you can just, put your questions in the Q&A. I will obviously go through them. But more interestingly than just body fat and body muscle, I will now dive deep into something quite fascinating. For example, let's say cardiovascular fitness. So this is something we call as VO2 max. Do you know what is VO2 max? No issues. If not, I will explain. So VO2 max is a good indicator. I would say the best indicator for cardio fitness. And what it measures is maximum amount of oxygen that your muscles can use. And it is measured as per kg of your muscle, how many ml of oxygen it can utilize. And you'll see this shaded area, that is the average area. And you can see a drop here in July. I don't know if you can see it or not. You can see my cursor. You can check, yes, if you can see it. The movement of the cursor. Can you see it? The mouse. Okay, I think you guys can see. Thank you. Thank you. So this is July. So July is my birthday. So as for the global standard, as you age, your VO2 max will come down. And you can see I was able to increase my VO2 max while I was aging. So I started from 25.9 VO2 max. It measures your cardiovascular, cardio fitness. And I was able to go beyond average. So I was below average when I was younger. So again, I can. So this is below average when I was younger, this area. And now with age, I'm here. While I age, I increased my VO2 max. I don't know what to tell you. This is fascinating. I never actually hoped that something like this can be achieved. And again, it's just 1 year, April 2023, April 2024. But again, I worked on this much, much later after I got my weight, reduced, because when you are like 142, you shouldn't exercise much. I wouldn't recommend that. It will damage all your joints. So once I got my weight, lowered to 100 or something, actually I think below 90, then I started actually doing some workout. So I wouldn't recommend exercising when you're already overweight or actually obese. So this is something I find quite interesting. So weight came down, uh, body fat came down, body muscle went up, cardiovascular health improved. Huh? And what about resting heart rate? This is something lower is better. So resting in when you're not doing anything at all, your heart rate shouldn't be much higher. So I started with 76, and I made it down to 59, not 60. So whatever should come down came down, whatever should go up went up. This is heart rate variability. Again, getting it higher is better. So started only at 28. I got it up to almost 80. Everything I'm doing this in my 40s. That's another thing you need to figure out. If you're a young kid, yes, you can recover much, much faster. But yeah, at 40, doing this kind of changes in your health, I take a lot of pride in it actually. And also, a lot of people actually have done same or similar or even better than I did. I will show you a case study of somebody, a retired professor of 75 years age. A case study I will walk you through. It's there. Now, one thing very close to my heart is sleep. I told you earlier, right, that I struggled with sleep a lot. So take a look at this. I was desperate to get some sleep. So it was 8 hours, 46 minutes I was spending in bed, hoping to get some sleep. And you can see how much I actually got. Just 4 hours, 4.5 hours approximately. That's all I got. And that is also with medication. With medication, spending almost 9 hours in a bed and I'm getting 4.5 hours of sleep. It was that bad, the situation. And then you can take a look, just a couple of months. It was November 26 to January 18, 2023, 22 to 23. So first I focused on the cosmetics or the biggest problem, losing weight. Then I focused on correcting each and everything the way I can. Actually, I feel a lot better in my 40s than I was like in my early 30s or even late 20s also. I feel a lot better now, honestly speaking. So you can see I spent less time in bed, just 7 hours, 7.5 hours. But I got 6.5 hours of sleep. Again, I think that's quite fascinating here. So all these improvements actually happen. What about blood work? This is my uh, indicator for diabetes, that is HbA1c, the hemoglobin oxidation. It was 7.3. I brought it down to 5.5 at that time. Now it is even lower. My hemoglobin, like 11 point something. I got it up to 13 point something. Still a win. Uh, ESR. ESR is something for, do you know what is ESR? Anybody? You can write in the chat if you know what is ESR. No? Okay, I will walk you through. ESR is uh, erythrocyte sedimentation rate, EAS, erythrocyte sedimentation rate. It indicates how much inflammation you have in your body. It's not the best indicator, but you will find it almost on any regular blood work. It's there. So you can see mine was 23. It's quite high. I brought it down to 12, almost half. So all these things can happen when you remember who we truly are as a species and how we're supposed to live. You have to wake up actually to see like what we should and shouldn't do, why we shouldn't and should do. I will walk you through as much as I can today. So not just me, many people actually got their life back. I will walk you through at least two case studies, one or two, let's see. So I'll start with someone named Dr. Srinivas. So he's a scientist, but again, not spending entire day in a lab. He's also a field scientist. So he actually walks almost every day in the field. He's an entomologist. He works with insects, plant, pest, a scientist. So he was like 88 kilos. And once he started to understand these principles, paradigm shifted. So with better awareness, he was able to take better decisions. And with better decisions, he was able to get better results. So this same person, Dr. Srinivas, he lost 17 kilo. And this is how he ended up. Pretty good, I would say. And yeah, like initially, he's writing, I was initially skeptical. True. Who wouldn't be? Like, people have tried everything, still nothing works. So who would believe me if I say that it worked for me? And that it is a framework and a process. I will walk you through it. And yeah, another case study, and this is actually quite interesting, the next one. It's about one retired professor, age 75, suffering from diabetes with cardiovascular conditions. And I think he was on pacemaker since 1993 or something. So this is Professor Praveer. And we looked into his weight first. He wasn't exactly obese, but yes, overweight. And at the age of 75, within 77 days, he was able to lose 11.15 kgs at the age of 75. Now imagine, even if for young people, when they lose weight, it's not just the fat, most of them actually lose their muscles as well. But in this case, even at the age of 75, he gained 3% skeletal muscle. At the age of 75, a diabetic patient or someone suffering from diabetes with cardiovascular issues on a pacemaker was able to lose weight at the same time gain muscle. And I'm honestly proud about this whole case. And what about age? I was talking about 75, right? So do you know what is metabolic age? Anybody, you can write in the chat if you know yes. What is metabolic age? No? Okay. So think about this in this way. We can talk about age from two point of view. One, chronological age, based on your date of birth. And two, we can talk about biologically speaking, how does your body look like from inside? How does your body function? So that is metabolic age. And at the age of 75, he was able to reduce his biological age from 79. So this he was 75. I will show you through the cursor. He was 75, but still, metabolically speaking, biologically speaking, his body was almost like 4 years older. So he was almost like 80. But within 77 days, again, he was able to reduce his metabolic age by 4 years. So now his metabolic age and chronological age is the same. He's 75 biologically and chronologically. And one thing I haven't mentioned it yet because it's too surprising. I mean, maybe for the most of you. Within the first week, uh, I got him off insulin. So he was able to maintain blood sugar without insulin. So that's, I would say, another win. And remember, he's a patient with cardiac issues, diabetes 75. Still so much results he can achieve. And I can go on. For example, we have so many success stories. Like this is uh, Sangeeta, Miss Sangeeta. She was on insulin, 15 unit insulin, I believe. Yeah, 15 unit of insulin. And again, she was able to get off insulin and still maintaining the blood sugar. This is the same case study. This is Dr. Ravirupa from Bangalore. She was able to lose 10 kilo, and also she was suffering from hypertension, high blood pressure. And she's managing now actually normalized blood pressure without any medication. So no medication, she's now normal blood pressure, normal blood sugar, reduced weight. This is Dr. Chandra from Bangalore. So he was able to lose around 13 kilo and also resolve all of his digestive issues. So there are so many cases. But also we know that there are so many complications that can happen from obesity. And I have marked it a question mark here linked to obesity because I don't think so. I think obesity is just like an indicator that something much more sinister is actually wrong inside our body. Obesity itself, I don't think, is actually a disease. It's just one marker. Like for the fever, you get high temperature, right? So high temperature is not the disease. A fever is a symptom of something underlying, like let's say infection or something. Obesity is the same thing. Obesity itself, I don't think is a disease. It's a marker of something else is wrong. So I have mentioned like linked. So I doubt that word. It's linked. It's not linked. It's an indicator. But what does it indicate? It indicates higher chances of, if you're obese, then most likely you will also have, high blood pressure, higher chances of heart failure, stroke, uh, diabetes, then sleep apnea, asthma, different type of, gastric issues, acid reflux, fatty liver, lot of things, different type of cancer, colon cancer, kidney, esophageal cancer, breast cancer, depression, anxiety, reduced fertility, and overall decreased quality of life. That's a huge long list that is linked with obesity. And again, I mean, I think obesity indicates that those are the things that might be actually happening on inside. We don't know yet. And we have some options. I had considered actually all of them. I had gone through different type of diets. So there is a difference between a diet and a nutrition plan. So diet means something that will give you quick, immediate result. You can maybe, force it through willpower for a while, but you cannot sustain it. And also, unless you understand what you are doing, why you are doing that paradigm shift, you can't really maintain any habit. Anyhow, I have tried a lot of different diet. And if you do, there's a good chance, if you don't understand what you are doing, there's a good chance you will end up with nutrient deficiencies or you will develop some kind of eating disorder. Exercise, as I was saying, if you are already obese and you are doing some exercise while you are overweight or obese, more likely you will injure some ligaments, joints, or you can exacerbate some other health conditions also. Meal replacement. So, there are shakes and powders, you just, mix it up, smoothie kind of stuff. I have done that as well. And what will end up? Yes, gastrointestinal issue, nutrient imbalance. And then we have medications. Medications. Nowadays, Ozempic. What is Ozempic? Anybody have heard about this thing? Ozempic? You can write yes or no. Ozempic. Have you heard it? Anybody? Hmm. Is anybody taking it? It's not good actually. I will walk you through why. I hope not. I hope not. Okay, so we'll just spend a few minutes on medication front because people think it's easy, but they don't think about the consequences. So anyhow, we have these options. So which one would you choose? Maybe something that is very fast and easy, like medications, like Ozempic. Sure, from a distance, I mean, it may sound like a good idea, but is it really? So, do you know how Ozempic works? Ozempic is a drug of, semaglutide, group of compounds. So, but do you know how it works? So, very simply put, it slows down the movement of your food in your gut. It slows down the peristalsis, the sequential movement of the food through your gut. So, what happens? The food remains in your stomach for a long, long time. So basically, this type of drugs, they're choking your gut so that the food cannot pass any longer. So you don't feel hungry, so you cannot eat, you will lose weight. But is it a good thing? See, if we're getting poisoned by, let's say, arsenic, we can lose weight, but I wouldn't take arsenic. Just losing weight is not something, uh, necessarily good. You have to look at like why you are losing weight. But I seriously doubt that this kind of medications are actually good. So it slows down your basically garbage collection. So you are not allowing the garbage to go out. You are retaining it for longer. So keeping it for longer, I mean, it's decomposing inside of you, and it is releasing a lot of metabolites like you know that decomposed material from that food, and your body is absorbing them. So and again, it's choking your gut. I mean, how come it's a good idea? And again, when you stop the medication, what will happen? You will again start repeating the same old habit and you will gain some weight. As simple as that. So no, I wouldn't recommend medicines like, Ozempic and stuff. You'll get diarrhea, constipation, headache, serious complication, dry mouth, nausea, dizziness, and a lot of stuff. And believe it or not, surgery. So bariatric surgery. Actually, some of my family members, they had recommended me bariatric surgery. Again, I don't think it's a good idea to cut parts of your body for any reason. So yes, struggle, lot of struggle. And these three reasons pushed me to take some action. So I had a fear of serious complication from my health situation. I was afraid that I might become dependent on others. And also, I was afraid that I might lose my mind, my cognitive ability. But apart from that, there are so many things that can go wrong. So many things, so many things. I was feeling like tired, sluggish, unmotivated. And then you will receive conflicting health advice. Somebody will say, eat this. Somebody say, don't eat this. Somebody say something else, medicine, something. So much conflicting advice. And it's conflicting because we don't take enough time to go through them and understand them thoroughly. So many problems, so many. And often we don't have enough time to, you know, cut through the noise, get the information. Sometimes this is one of my biggest fear, serious complications. And then relying on medication, I don't think it's a good idea. And again, this one, another one of my concerns, becoming dependent on others, and also losing my mind. So this is what, like, about who am I, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and why you should at least hear me out for what I have to say. So now we'll come to the second chapter, and it is all about asking questions. It's waking up awakening. So breaking the spell. It's almost like we're pretending that everything is fine, but clearly it is not. So at least, you know, we should start asking questions. And I will walk you through three examples. So I will start with a question or a preconceived idea, and then I will try to break the spell, basically. So first, I will start with the most common advice regarding weight loss. And same is true for almost all diseases. I will walk you through later, but we'll start today. We'll focus on weight loss. So at first advice is spend more calories than you consume. And second is eat less, move more. I tried both. It didn't work for me. How is it working for you? Sure, if you go on starvation, you will lose weight, but also your health, because you're likely to become malnourished. And if you continue on starvation long enough, you will die for sure. But yes, you will lose weight. So these two most common advice is based on uh, calorie-centric theory of obesity. And I will show you uh, how it doesn't make sense. Just to begin with, think about this. Calorie is it's a unit of energy. Energy doesn't have any weight. So how can you lose weight by losing energy? Energy doesn't have any weight. In any case, people tried that already. So some study, it was done 1950s or something called, it's a famous study actually, Minnesota starvation experiment. So what they did, they took a group of volunteers and they asked them to stay in one ward and they restricted their calorie intake. So this is exactly the study what the most common advice we receive today. Eat less calorie or spend more calorie based on calorie, the idea. And I will walk you through. So what they did for around 24 weeks, they cut down their calorie intake by 50%. So what it means, I also had those kind of shakes and stuff where there isn't much calorie in it, but it will fill you up. So you won't feel hungry for a while, but there ain't much calorie. You can just mix it with, I don't know, water or milk and drink it. It's not good. Not good. I will walk you so many things to discuss. But anyway, they already did that in 1950s. So what happened? So their basal metabolic rate came down to up to 31%. So you know what basal metabolic rate is? Anybody? No? I will just quickly. When you are just living your life, you're alive, just to stay alive, your body needs to spend some energy. Breathing, even sleeping also, everything. Heartbeat, speaking, just casual everyday walk. So basal metabolic rate is not even that. It is just for, assume you're sleeping. So whatever energy you spend while you're asleep, so that's your basal metabolic rate. So they did this study already. They did it. But still, so when you earn less, you spend less. Same thing. So you're eating less calorie, your body is automatically spending less calorie. You cannot change it. So they did the same study, what we discussed earlier. Eat less uh, calorie, spend more calorie. It didn't work for them. And you know the saddest part, the book is available on Amazon and it got only a 5 rating. Anyone can go and read it. So the same idea that eating less calorie will lead to weight loss, it was done. It's not going to happen. Starvation is a different story. I will walk you through again later. So now that was 1950s. And today you cannot do this kind of experiment. You cannot lock up people and feed them less. You can't do that today as a experiment. But you can do the same if you say it's a reality TV show. No? So do you know this guy? He's supposed to be very famous actually. So there was a TV show, The Biggest Loser, and they have different seasons, one, two, three. This is some of those seasons. And this guy is Eric Chopin, and he lost a massive quantity of weight during that TV show. The TV show is basically about whoever is going to lose most weight, and he will win some thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is, remember, this is a reality TV show. So they have the backing of experts. They have the funding or budget of millions of dollars. So with all that support, uh, he was able to lose 97 kilo. So he started at 185 kilo. During the show, with the help of millions of dollars and expertise experts, he was able to lose 97 kilo. So at the end of the study, he was like 88. Sorry, not the study, end of the show. Uh, but he regained almost all of it just within a few years. So by 2010, he was back again to almost the same, like 167 kilo. Okay, think about it. So what chance you think I have? You have. So they did it with the help of millions of dollars and the best experts supposedly in the world, and still they cannot maintain the body weight. They cannot hold that weight loss. Why can't? So that was the first advice. Eat less, move more. Doesn't work. I mean, at least it doesn't work for me. Hmm? So that is the first breaking the spell, the first spell. If you can write yes, if you think that that is something, at least you're curious. You can write yes or no in the chat. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so now we'll break the second spell. There are countless spells. Anyway, I will try to break at least 3 spells for you today. Consuming saturated fat is bad for health, right? We all know that. So we think that, I don't know, sunflower oil is better than butter or ghee. We all know that. We don't doubt it, right? Or do we? I don't know. Let's see. And we talk about LDL cholesterol. First of all, cholesterol, LDL, not the exact thing. Anyway, let's say LDL. It's a common household word nowadays. Everybody knows about LDL, right? That causes heart disease. So this whole second advice is regarding fat. And let's see. So let's take up LDL. It's bad cholesterol, right? Everybody knows that. And it's a measure and decide cycle. We measure LDL and we drug it. But what exactly we're measuring and how come we're deciding that? So I will walk you through these 2 points, and hopefully it won't be that simple, like as you thought before you joined the workshop. I'm sorry for that. I mean, once you wake up, once you see the evidence, you cannot unsee it. So that's on me. So before 1980s, we used to say that less than 200 mg LDL is good enough. There shouldn't be any issue with you health-wise. In 1980s, we between 80s to 90s, then we brought that major standard thing from 200 to 130. And we said that, well, not 200, but if you are below 130, you should be fine. And then we said, no, actually, maybe if you are at high risk, it shouldn't be 130, it should be less than 100. Okay, all right, fine. So this is a standard, we're lowering our standard, hoping to have less cardiac events, I mean, heart conditions all around us, right? Now take a look at this. I will walk you through like what it means. Just to summarize, This study, they have more than 1.3 lakh patients. They took their blood at the time of hospital admission. So it's not like following them up later, predicting what's going to happen to them. It's not all of those. These patients are already admitted with the heart attack, and they are collecting the blood at the time of admission. And more than 50% had less than 100 LDL. So I will show you how to read this graph. So let's see, this is, let's say 0.5%, this bar. This is, let's say 1%, the 1.5% total. Let's say this is 2.5. So 2.5 plus 1.5, 4%. Similarly, let's say this bar is like 10%, so 14%. Now, if you add up all these bars on the left of this box, that will come to more than 50%. So what it means? It means even if people had less than 100 LDL, still they had their heart attack, and also their percentage is more than half. So more people are getting their heart attack when their LDL is less than 100. And again, I'm not making this up. It is published. It's there. So now what do you think about this measure and decide this guideline? And now we are saying that it should be less than 70. I mean, seriously, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So that is the second spell. What we're measuring, how do we know what is the standard? And if we are accurate about it, then how come more people are actually having heart attack every day? Even if we have better diagnosis, better medications, why? Just be curious and at least start asking questions. So that was the second spell I wanted to break. Now let's come to the third one. So this is about diabetes, high blood sugar. So this is some advice all of us will get often, like consume whole grain. Whole grain is good, right? I don't know why. You should ask like why it's good. And we say that it controls diabetes. Whole grain is better. Now, I will show you something. And again, this is my own data. So there is no issue of, confidentiality, nothing like that. My own reading. So take a look at this graph. This is the time, and this is the increase in blood sugar level. So I used one continuous glucose monitor. I can stick it, on my arm, and I read it. So you see the entire day, my average was like 99 mg per deciliter. And just with one meal, and that is also so-called healthy meal, steel cut oat, and not instant oat, actual whole steel cut oat, just one meal, one lunch, it spiked my sugar level by 88 points. So when my average was 99, the entire day, only that one meal spiked it to almost 190. And it remained high for a very long time. I had breakfast, I had dinner, see, nothing. Just one meal with a whole grain. That is how it looks. And you know the saddest part? The American Diabetic Association, on their website, just one web page alone, they are recommending whole grain 4 times on just one web page. Not only that, they're recommending things like bread, pasta, and cracker. And you can see the results, right? This is what whole grain does to blood sugar. Anyone can try that. You can also buy a CGM, put it on, have some, I don't know, any whole grain and see how it looks. This is how it looks. And what they recommend 4 times. And they're recommending particularly bread, pasta, cracker. I did that as well. So this is me on bread on the left. And also the best quality bread, supposedly, multi-grain bread. So this is breakfast, just two pieces of bread, multi-grain, whole grain. You see, the entire day was quite normal, just the breakfast, it got spiked. And when we have diabetes, often we'll get the advice that switch from rice to roti, the Indian flatbread roti. I did that. I got even a larger spike than the bread. I don't know. So again, I don't think whole grain is really as good as you think. At least it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. So I believe we are entirely and solely responsible for how our life turns out to be, whether personally or professionally. Yes, for some of us, turning around or making positive changes might be easier than others, depending on where you're starting from. But wherever you're starting from and whatever you have, that is all you have to work with, including all the difficulties, misfortune, tragedies, catastrophes. And if you keep blaming all that is there for you to work with, then you end up with nothing to work with. So you cannot blame on your situation, whatever you have to work with that. Is it fair? No, but that is the reality. So you are not responsible for where your life's journey starts, but you are entirely and solely responsible if you make no progress towards the best possible version of yourself. I started from health-wise from a really, really, really bad situation. And I'm proud to say that I'm feeling a lot better in my 40s than I did in my 30s or even late 20s as well. So I have been there and I truly understand your struggle. And things are getting serious. So the second story. So I promised you 3 stories, right? So we'll just quickly tell you the second story about why I'm doing this. So this is regarding a quite funny, embarrassing, and scary story. So it was 2016, and I was on a flight from Frankfurt to Delhi, and I had to ask for the first time in my life for a seat belt extension. I'm laughing now, but at that time I was so embarrassed. I promised myself that I won't ask for an extension again. I realized that I had given away uh, my responsibility, my ownership of my health and responsibility of keeping me healthy to others. So I had given up all my responsibility and ownership, and along with that, I gave up my power as well. So I knew I had to work on getting them back. So I started research. I started studying, reading, and researching about human evolution, physiology, anthropology. I'm still studying, about all these disciplines, forensic paleoanthropology, nutrition, as well as some common issues that were becoming evidently a concern for me, like diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular issues. So again, I wasn't dead yet, but I was not really living either. I was on so many medications. But anyhow, so that was a second story. So I had to ask for a seatbelt extension for the first time. And that was a second push. The first push was that doctor in AIMS, Delhi. This is the incident with the seatbelt. I will tell you one last story. That is actually something that pushed me to act on all this research, what I did. But I was skeptical and afraid to actually apply it. I will tell you the last story. You know. later. So now this is about breaking the spells, like what we think we know. I'm not too sure anymore. I would like to think for myself, take a look at the actual study and the evidence and see how it's worked. So now we'll move to the third chapter. Huh? So that is how we ended up here. So even after spending so many working hours collectively as a scientific community, spending so much of taxpayers' money in research, even private funds as well, how did we ended up in this situation? As I said, like for acute conditions like infection or broken bone or cut, the modern medicine is doing wonder. But when it comes to some other type of diseases, chronic illnesses, even including cancer, Alzheimer's, I don't see much progress. We talk about it, but see our paradigm. I will walk you through later and maybe on another workshop. But anyhow, let's see how we ended up here. And I thought hard about it, and I came up with at least two different but parallel reasons. And there is a third one, but it is so controversial. Uh, I don't want to say it publicly. In private community or private groups, I discuss this often, but publicly, I can't say the third one. I'm already what I'm saying. Uh, I can get crucified any day, any time. I mean, my fight is quite challenging. I'm just one individual against the entire system, particularly big food and big pharma. So anyway, I came up. I can think of these two reasons. So let's call them Y number one and Y number two. There is a third one, but I can't discuss it openly right now because it's quite inflammatory to discuss that publicly. So first reason I think is we it's around evolution, our biological evolution and our technological progress, the gap, the distance between these. And second reason is economic, political, and social. I will walk you through both of them. Like these are the reasons I think why we ended up in such a bad situation. So first why is the speed of evolution that takes like millions of years, and the speed of technology just decades and even years. You can imagine, right? Like for evolution to transform reptiles to birds, it took hundreds of millions of years. But for a feature mobile phone to a smartphone, it took just a couple of years. From the first light bulb to LED bulb, just a couple of years. You know, so the speed of technology, the progress of technology, and the speed of evolution, like how our body adapts, this is quite different. So that is creating this first great gap. So we can pretend that we're evolving, but it's not. We are not. We cannot evolve that fast. So we cannot keep up with the speed of technology. Our biology cannot keep up with the speed of technology. But I'm not asking you to give up technology. You can work with that. For example, this glass. I use this glass when I work on my computer during daytime. So what it does, it blocks certain amount of blue light from the digital screens. For night, I don't have it right now with me. I have another glass that helps me sync with my circadian rhythm, with the sunlight, artificial light. That's one of the reason I showed you that sleep improvement, right? So that was one of the implementation I did on my own. So I have done on my own. I have seen people use those principles and get really, really good results. So first reason I think is the gap, the great gap between the speed of evolution and the speed of technology. Now, what I mean by that, So our bodies are still ancient, like the cave dwellers. But our way of life today is like almost like an alien environment. So we have a disparity, a mismatch. So technology it advances very fast within years and decades. And biological evolution, it walks over a very large time scale. So this is a great gap. I just described it to you before. And whatever we think as normal, because everyone is doing it around us, doesn't make it normal. Hmm. So we need to align our biology with our way of life. So social norm is different, biological norm is different. And we don't have a memory of millions of years, right? But there are ways, like forensic paleoanthropology. I have studied a lot of material on that. But there are ways to figure out what we don't remember as an individual. So how we are used to experience our lives before. So there are ways to study that. Anyway, so this is the great gap. And what I think is creating is an alien world. So as far as I am concerned, I believe we are already living in an alien world. Nothing is remotely similar to what we have evolved to deal with. The food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, light we see, thoughts we have, and nothing is same as what we're supposed to experience. There is a huge gap between the speed of our, technology and our evolution. So we can pretend as much as we want that we have evolved and that everything is fine, but that won't make things any better. Because biologically speaking and physiologically speaking, we are the same as our cave-dwelling ancestors. So what we eat, what we drink, air we breathe, the warmth we feel, the light we see, the sounds we hear, the thoughts we have, everything is different now. And we can do a lot about it actually, without sacrificing our way of life. So let's talk about light. We don't think much about it, right? But this is one of my favorite thing to tinker with. So let's talk about light. Along with light, yes, darkness as well. So let me showcase a seemingly harmless gap. So we as a species have been around for at least 300,000 years. The widespread use of artificial electric light has been around only for maybe 140 years. That is, if we consider the fast commercial power plant in Manhattan, I think, yeah, by Thomas Edison in 1882. Uh, so our encounter with this artificial electric light is a very recent phenomenon. And we did not have any remote possibility of accommodating to this extremely unnatural experience within the limited time that we have been exposed to it. And there is no question of being adapted during this brief time. There is no biological tolerance for us. So the only light after the sunset we had for the entire history of our species before 1882, it was either from the moon or from the fire. There was no other source of light in the entire history of humanity. So now let's see what happens when we disrupt this relation with light. For example, there was one study where they asked two groups of people, one group to sleep at night in a completely dark environment, and another group to sleep in a dimly lit environment at night. So you're sleeping, and the only difference is one room is dark, one room is with dimly lit. And they also changed the group. So first they study group A in dark, group B in dim light. They found some result. and they changed the group. So now the group B is sleeping in a dark environment and group A is sleeping in a dimly lit environment. What they found just within 7 days, their inflammation. You remember we talked about ESR, how I reduce my ESR? That's an indication of inflammation. This HSCRP, it is called high sensitivity C-reactive protein, that is even more sensitive and accurate marker for inflammation. And within 7 days, just by sleeping either in dark or in dim lit situation, it increased their inflammation by 39%. So just by choosing to turn off the light, you can reduce your inflammation by 39%. It's not bad though, right? So just you can write on the chat if you understand how simple this is. Just one decision, switch off the light while you sleep. Just by doing that, you can get your inflammation down. That's that's amazing in my book. You just have to keep your mind open, be curious, study, read. And also I'm here to give you that information, what I can find, what works for me, my loved ones, my friends, my family, and to my clients. Just one simple decision. Now let's talk about another one. We all talk about, sunlight, vitamin D, and also we talk about sunlight and skin cancer, right? Now think about this. If you don't have enough vitamin D, more likely that you will develop cancer. There was one study uh, that was done on a group of women, and they just checked how much vitamin D they have in their blood, and they followed them over time through years and see how many of them developed breast cancer. Actually, they followed for all lot of things, but they found this significant. So just depending on how much vitamin D you have in your blood, either 20 nanogram or less per ml, or more than 60 or 60 or more than 60. Just by this much variation in nanogram, imagine that, a nanogram, you can lower the chances of breast cancer by 82%. It's fascinating. So getting enough sunlight is also a requirement. So getting dark, experiencing enough darkness at night is good. Experiencing more sunlight during the day is good. And this is why, like, let's say, this is fascinating. So there is one study. These are all statistical in analysis. So they found lack of sunlight is as risky as smoking if you consider all-cause mortality. So what is all-cause mortality? All-cause mortality is we just see if somebody is dead or alive. We don't consider for what cause they passed away. We just see dead or alive, yes or no. And based on that, it was found that avoidance of sunlight is almost as risky as smoking. So think about it for a while. And again, I'm not making this up. This is already published. And well, regarding publication also, don't always go with the author's conclusion. See the actual data. Because sometimes what happens, depending on the source of funding, there could be conflict of interest. So the author's conclusion always might not be accurate. But hopefully, the supplement data set tables, the actual data that is unlikely to be corrupted, that is most likely to be more accurate than just the abstract or the author's conclusion. So always read the entire paper. So anyway, and this is just about the light. So I told you that we're living in an alien environment, right? This is just about the light. We have so many parameters. So now let's take a look. Another one, no? Air. Air we breathe. And we know a lot in our common awareness, you know, PM 2.5, particulate matter, exhaust from the factories, car, combustion engine, everything. And that is a common knowledge nowadays. But also there are some errors in that understanding. We'll discuss it maybe some other day. Today I want to talk about what we do not breathe. And I'm sure this will be interesting for you. So we have changed our atmosphere that we are not even getting some things that we used to get. So what we do not breathe is actually quite important. So let's talk about phytoncides. So, so what exactly is phytoncide? So these are volatiles that is, made by the plants, particularly evergreen plants, pine and other stuff. So they are released from the plants, and when we used to live within greenery, we used to take that up 24/7. So what it is, it's a volatile. What it does, it increases your NK cell. NK cell is natural killer cell activity. So what it does, so basically NK cell, they are like small patrolling officer. So they will uh, walk and go throughout your entire system, your body, and they will try to locate and destroy anything that is not working, like uh, cancerous cell or precancerous cells, any infected cells, any dysfunctional cells. So they will just roam around your body. They will find the problem area and they will just destroy that particular cell. So that is how natural killer cell, LK cell, would work. And phytoncides, the molecules coming from those evergreen plant, they used to activate and increase this activity. But now we're living in a situation, if you're lucky, you might get some exposure to greenery, I don't know, maybe once a week, maybe. Uh, but what it means, even for today's world, let's talk about COVID-19. It's a very recent thing. So we studied COVID-19 mortality rate. So globally, the rate was somewhere around 1.3, 1.1, 1.2 in that range. So there was interesting study in France where they looked into how the mortality rate is changing with the forest area coverage in that locality. So what they found, that for the areas with more than zero point 0.3 hectare of forest per capita, they have a less mortality compared to the global average. And if that forest area increases from 0.3 to 0.5 hectare per capita, then the mortality will it dropped down to 0.005%, from 1.13% global average to those areas with more than 0.5 hectare of forest, 0.005%. That's a decrease of 99.62%. And again, I'm not making this up. All of this is published. So what we're breathing, yes, we know it's bad. But what we're missing out, what we're not breathing, that is also critical for health. Right? Right. And that is just for human, but indirectly we're also getting impacted if something else is getting, for example, plants. So we have changed our atmosphere in such a way that even plants are growing differently. If you compare plants just from 40, 50 years back and today's, you'll see that the plants, they are containing at least 15% less minerals and even up to 30% less B vitamins. So plants are less nutritious now than they used to be. Again, I'm not making any of this up. This is already there. It's published. So just even write in the chat if you find this interesting, that even plants are not, you know, able to cope with the way we're changing the atmosphere. Do you find it interesting? Okay, 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 all right. So now we just covered another one of it. So first we talked about the light and the dark. This is the air, and there are so much more. So now together, all these kind of different exposures of chemicals, light, sound, temperature, all of these things, we call it exposome. So what is exposome? And exposome is the way, this is how this great gap, the reason why, first why, the great gap between the speed of technology and speed of evolution, that is how this exposome is the exact way it is impacting us. So exposome is the totality of all the environmental exposures that we experience throughout our entire life. It can be, internal. It can be external. So yes, internal means, so external means pollutants, chemicals, pesticides in our food, even bad habits like smoking. And internal means what's happening within our body, like let's say too much of insulin, too much of, I don't know, leptin, too low testosterone for male, uh, too low testosterone for female. So all these internal inflammation, oxidative stress, so these are internal exposome, part of exposome, internal, external. And then to make things more complicated, consider the lifetime exposure. When you're getting exposed to what you're getting exposed to. So this is how it works. So the great gap is creating an alien world, and that alien world is exposing us to so much of signals and stimulus that uh, we are no longer at our best. And not only that, it can go beyond generation. I will walk you through. So there was one study. It's called Dutch famine study. During Second World War, there was a famine in, Holland or Netherlands. So what we found, that if the father, they had to go through starvation when they had children, those babies were more obese compared to the one whose father were not starved. So again, calorie restriction. So if you're starving, it's damaging you, of course. So there is difference between starvation and fasting. We'll also discuss that maybe later some other day. But anyway, starvation for the father is affecting the next generation, making them more obese. And again, I'm not making this up. This is already published. It's there. So what I'm trying to say, we end up in a evolutionary disadvantage. Now the question is how do we get out of it? We'll also try to give you some idea around it. Now, I told you about another reason, the great conflict, the second why. You remember it, right? So first of all, yeah, I can see one chat here. Soil quality is different. Yes, absolutely. This is regarding that plant nutrition thing, right? Shalini Varman, yes, you're absolutely right. So this monocrop, this agriculture, the process we're following, that is depleting our soil. So I will go another topic for another workshop. But you're correct. Not only the air, soil is also deteriorating. Again, any world. So anyway, The second reason, the first reason is the gap between our technology and our biology. Right. Second is a gap between our evidence and our recommendation. So what I'm trying to say, we use weak evidence for strong recommendation. And I don't think it's serving us any purpose. And that is what I call as great conflict. So there is a huge gap between the quality of our evidence and the strength of our recommendation. We base strong recommendations on weak evidence. And the result is in, it's front of you. You can see it globally happening everywhere. So this is the second reason, the great conflict. And human brain is a funny thing. We don't like to be in a situation where we think that we don't know stuff. So even if we don't really know, our brain makes us believe and makes us comfortable that, well, at least enough to sustain. So that's why we like to believe that we know what is healthy, what is unhealthy, food or anything else for that matter. But I hope I can make you curious enough to at least start asking questions, at least after today. So anybody is aware of what this is? My plate? You know that? Anybody? So this is US guideline, recent guideline on how to eat. Hmm. Same we have also in India, my plate. And obviously most of us are trying to follow this. I did. Same information as a pyramid. If you are, 80s child, yeah, you will most likely be familiar with pyramids. Food plate is more recent, but food pyramid is also quite, the same idea in a different way. On your right, you can see from the US. On your left, it's from India. One thing you will see for both, what we're saying is sugar and fat to be as little as possible. And in this case, one thing is not the same as the other. Sugar and fat, completely different thing. We're putting them on top to have as little as possible. We're putting the grains here. And we're saying have 6 to 11 serving of bread, cereal, rice, pasta. That's the guideline. 6 to 11 servings. And I've shown you earlier for blood work what one serving can do, right? This is our guideline, and we think that we know. I sincerely doubt that. So now let's start with one statement that we know for sure, and then I will try to make that statement at least into a question for you to think about it. Paradigm shift is very critical. Otherwise, you can't progress. You can't make any meaningful changes in any aspect of your life. So this is the statement. Higher intake of saturated fat was associated with higher cholesterol levels and increased risk of heart diseases. Right? For the cholesterol, LDL particularly, I have described it before. Just a few. I I I hope you remember that, right? Now let's talk about the saturated fat. So we know this is true, right? I'm not too sure though, but let's see. I will try to turn this statement into a question. Just give me 2 minutes and the benefit of doubt. How come we ended up with this kind of ideas? This is how. This is a very, very famous study that actually dictates a lot of dietary guidelines for decades. The 7-country study done by Ansel Keys, published in 1983. So what they did, they published a paper showing that different country having different fat intake. So on this axis, this is fat intake, total fat intake, and this is death per thousand. And they plotted different countries, Japan, Italy, Australia, Canada, USA, and that's found that when you increase your fat intake, you have more mortality. And they plotted it so nicely. But they had data from at least 22 countries, not from 7 countries. Again, think about it. This is the actual data. Now take a look at this. So this is the highest fat intake, 40% of the calories. And all these countries from 22, 3, 16, 19, 17, all of them kind of grouped together with 40% fat intake, but they have very huge difference in terms of mortality. You see, US, they have more than 700 deaths, while at the same 40% mortality here. At the same time, Norway, they had only 300 compared to 700. But both of these countries are still consuming 40% fat, 40% calorie as a fat. What does it mean? So do you think that fat alone is causing mortality? Because see, US and Norway, both actually there is another country, 15, which is less than Norway. 15 is what? Netherlands. Anyway, let's stick with US and Norway. So US 700, Norway 300. Less than half. Both are having similar fat quantity. Why? Now think about this. This lower quadrant over here. Country number 13, Japan. They're consuming less than 10% fat. And their mortality is around 150. One country with less than 10% fat. Mortality less than 150. Now take a look at this block. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 countries got similar or lower mortality than Japan and consuming twice, even up to thrice, 30% fat. Country 8 means France. Yeah. Lower mortality than Japan, but 3 times more fat consumption than Japan. So I don't know. Think about it. Is it that simple? Then how come we have so much difference between US and Norway while both are at 40%? And how come France and Japan are almost similar mortality, but very different fat intake? Why? There are more to it. So now I hope I'm able to make that statement into a question. You can write in the chat, yes, if you think that at least this qualifies as a question. It's not a simple statement anymore that higher fat intake is bad. I know we would like to believe that because we have been, as I said, it's almost like a spell. So we believe that wholeheartedly. I used to believe that. But you can write yes in the chat if you think at least you are curious enough to question that. You can write in the chat if you think it's interesting. So again, I mean, food pyramids and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. Now think about this again. Do you remember this? Forgive me for this quality. It's from a very old newspaper. Do you remember this ad? Sunday ho ya Monday, rose ka Monday, which means any day of the week have some egg. But now we're afraid of it because we're afraid of the fat. I just want to showcase the issue of how we got misguided on fat and other stuff. So this was a very popular advertisement, and now you won't see this anymore. Why? Because of this. You'll see these kind of reports in paper. This is reputable. CNN. I mean, you will find the similar thing in any news. House. What it says? It says 3 or more eggs in a week increase your risk of heart disease and early death. So 3 egg and early death. And from CNN. So that is why you don't see those kind of ads anymore because we're too afraid, right? Now, I want to ask you some questions and then again we'll come back to this. Can you remember what you had for lunch last Wednesday? Just try to remember. Can you remember what you had for lunch last Wednesday? I can't remember it. Can you remember how many bananas you had in the last week? Can you? I'm sorry, I can't. I can't. How about how many eggs you had in the last 1 month? Can you remember it? How many eggs, or if you don't eat egg, replace the egg with something else. How many apples you had in the last 1 month? How many eggs you had in the last month? The idea is remember these questions. Can you remember or not? Now we'll get back to the story on the eggs. So we get this kind of news articles and we get scared. Hmm? Now it came, this is a news article, so this is not a research article. This article, it came or it took the information from an actual article. This is a research article which says that they found the dietary cholesterol or egg consumption that increases your mortality. So this news article took the information from this article, this research article. This article is also not exactly original, I would say. They got the data from 6 different epidemiological studies. So these are called nutritional epidemiology. It's a large scale studies on thousands of people. Usually they go on for decades and they try to correlate between different exposures of food or something else with different type of disease and all. So this news article is based on this research article, which is based on all of these nutritional epidemiological study. Among this, number 3, Framingham Heart study, that is one of the most famous study. So if you are a doctor, or if you know any doctor, you can ask him whether he actually have heard about uh, Framingham Heart study or not. Definitely, anybody in health should definitely know about this study. Now, this study, actually, all of these studies, they're based on something called Food Frequency Questionnaire, FFQ. So what it means, you remember I asked you like how many eggs you had in the last 1 month or how many bananas you had last week? Same questions, are asked to thousands of people. And do you know how often it is asked? Can you write in the chat? I just want to see what you think about it. How often you think these Birmingham Heart Study people asked the participants about their egg consumption? Every day, every week, every month? What do you think? You can write in the chat. Once means once a day or once a week? Oh, you think just once? No, no, no. Okay. Okay, so this is quite fascinating, huh? They ask them every 3 years when they ask them soon or frequently, and they also ask them for even up to for 9 years. So they're also not regular. So sometimes they ask them every 3 years, and sometimes they ask them every 9 years. Can you imagine if you have to give a number on how many X you had in the last 3 years? You can replace the X with anything. Egg, apple, banana, I don't know, I don't care. Just remember or try to remember about any one of your favorite food item and now try to estimate how many you had over the last 9 years or even let's say 3 years. How accurate you think that would be? How accurate? And we're basing a statement that eating 3 eggs will kill you early based on somebody is trying to remember how many eggs he or she had over the last 9 years. I don't know. Now, I think you understand how ridiculous this is. Not only that, now think about this. They didn't only ask about one food item. They asked about 126 food items. Can you remember just one food item accurately, how much you had it, when you had it, how often you had it? And this is actually the real questionnaire form. This is how it looks like for that FAG studies. And based on asking people every 9 years about 126 different food items, we come up with a comment like eating 3 eggs will kill you. So I hope I'm able to turn that statement into a question. If you think, uh, I mean, you should question that. You can write yes in the chat. If you think you should at least start asking question, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. Yeah. All right. All right. So let's say we can go to the next step. Huh? So this is a committee. This is US Dietary Guideline Committee. And to be very honest and very frank, all the countries, almost all the countries, they kind of follow whatever the US does. So this committee is actually quite powerful. So this committee can not only decide the future of health in US, they are deciding the future of health globally. So this is US Dietary Guideline Advisory Committee of 2020. And these people are extremely, extremely powerful. Now, as I was saying, all the countries, they kind of follow US guideline. And US guideline is based on the advisory committee. Now, what would you say if the 90% of the committee members, they have a conflict of interest with the food and the pharmaceutical industries? So what I mean by that, they are getting some kind of benefit from the big food and big pharma. So do you think they can recommend against anything that will be in conflict with the interest of the food and pharma industries? I don't think so. 95% of the committee members, they are beneficiary of these food and pharma companies some way or the other. And again, I'm not making this up. It is published. Suppressed, but yes, published. And you know what are these companies? Well-known companies like Kellogg's, Abbott, Kraft, Johnson, Mid Johnson, General Mills, Danone, International Life Science. So all of these companies and all of these products, they are benefiting those committee members some way or the other. Not only that, USDA then have their strategic partners. Look at this. Look at this. Lay's, Jelly Belly, Fritos, Kit Kat, Maggie. Do you think, the guideline can go against these companies if they are benefited by some way or the other? So this is already too inflammatory. That is a third reason, but as an just private individual, I don't have that kind of power to go against the system. So I'm not going to discuss the third reason openly and publicly. This is already risky, I think. So these are the two reasons. The great gap between our evolution, our biology and technology, and the great conflict between the strength of our recommendation and the you weakness of our evidence. You remember that Japan and France study, that 22 countries, 7 countries study, the questionnaire regarding that 3 eggs will kill you, all those kind of stuff. You remember that, right? So again, the great gap, the great conflict, we end up in an evolutionary disadvantage. That's it. That's it. But then what can we do about it? What can we do about it? So as I was saying, like I'm on a mission to liberate as many people as I can for as long as I can, as best as I can. So do please, join me in my fight. So now we know, so we already knew that we're in a bad situation. We knew like what's happening all around us, but we're not quite aware of like how bad it is really. Uh, Now we have some idea like how we ended up in such a situation. And now I want to discuss what we can do about it. Like we are in a evolutionary disadvantage situation. We're living in an alien world that is creating some exposome and that is causing a lot of chronic disease and suffering. And let's see what we can do about it, right? But before you want to do anything at all, you must have enough reasons why you want to make any changes at all. Changes are supposed to be uncomfortable. Changes are where actually you grow. But unless you have enough reason why you want to make that change happen, you won't be able to make that change. Once you have enough reasons, you will definitely figure out how. I did. I had to figure it out. So you need to have enough strong reasons why you want to make any changes at all. So again, we are experiencing something unprecedented. So biologically speaking, we have never experienced so much, deviation from our natural biology ever before in the entire history of mankind. So we end up in a disadvantage, evolutionary disadvantage. And but we can still turn all of this as a lever or as a dial that you can adjust and get a different outcome, even improved outcome. It's possible to do that. Now, how do we turn that evolutionary disadvantage? But we can turn our scientific understanding of our evolutionary heritage into an advantage. Just because everyone around you has been living in a different way does not make it normal biologically. We lack many essential components for evolutionarily appropriate living, and we don't even know what we're missing because we have no memory of what those were, because we never had the privilege to experience them in our lifetime. Moreover, we might not even be aware that we're being exposed to something unnatural if we don't know what it feels like not to be exposed to it constantly. I felt that. I felt that. But before we get serious, again, story for the last third story, what actually pushed me to act on my newfound insight and information. So this final incident that pushed me to start acting on that insight. I was not able to purchase term insurance to secure my family's financial future in case I am no longer here. So imagine I'm trying to buy a term insurance policy, but the company wouldn't sell it to me. It was that bad. And I applied my newly developed understanding of who we are as human beings, how we should eat, live, think, everything. I became my own guinea pig, and I never had to ask for that seat belt extension again. You remember the second story, that seat belt extension? So anyhow, so this is the final story, the third story that actually pushed me to take action. And the worst part is that I was not alone. suffering from all these chronic illnesses. You are not alone. And I genuinely believe that most of us need not continue to suffer. So anyway, so that was the third story. I was trying to buy a policy and they wouldn't even sell it to me, not even with high premium, nothing. Straight away, no. So anyway, so I knew I had to move from point A to point B. So I was just alive, but I wanted to thrive. So I had to make that journey. And there are so many failed attempts and repeated the same process over and over and over again, followed the same advice over and over and more rigorously, more dedicatedly, because that's what initially I thought is the right way. Like, you remember that whole grain is good. So a lot of different things that I hear, even other medical professionals would recommend. I did all of that, but nothing really worked, because if the math you use to reach a destination is wrong, then no matter how many times you try, how fast you run or fly, whatever, or how carefully you take your steps, you're not going to end up uh, in your desired, location. If your map itself is wrong, so you will end up in a wrong place, no progress, no result, and there wasn't any lack of motivation. Like, why I have to move away from that situation? Again, I don't want to bore you through all of this, like from diabetes, high blood pressure, depression, anxiety, even different forms of cancer, sleep apnea. So there was plenty of reasons for me to move away from that position. And also we had major hurdles. Among these three were my greatest, motivator or greatest fear factor. Serious complication, I wanted to avoid that. I didn't want it to become dependent on others. And also, I didn't want it to lose my mind, my cognitive ability. That's all I had, the ability to think. So yes, I had to move from a bad situation to a better situation. And I realized that I had given away all the responsibility of my health to somebody other than myself. Along with that, I also given up the ownership of my own health. But from there, I had to move away to reclaim my ownership. And I had to do that because I didn't want it to depend on others. I didn't want it to experience cognitive decline. And I was afraid of serious complications. So I had to move to other. But as I was saying, like, if you have a wrong map, you will never end up in a right space. So I had to regain complete ownership of my own health. I had to reclaim complete and total responsibility. I cannot, you know, have ownership and responsibility given away and still hope for a good outcome. It's not going to happen. I am the largest stakeholder of my own health. How come I can give up all of my responsibility and ownership? So I had to reclaim it back. And I wanted to live a healthier life. So these are the reasons. I wanted to experience the energy and enthusiasm that I used to once, like, as a child. And I wanted to improve my focus and memory, cognitive well-being, basically. So these are the things that attracted me. So on this side, these are the factors that personally for me, they pushed me away from being stuck in this victim situation. And these are the things that pulled me to get to this position. But how do we do that exactly? Again, it's like a maze. So much of confusion, so much of contradicting advice, and also commonly agreed acceptable advice that doesn't seem to work well. So I have spent almost all my life until just few years back in this maze. So my urgency, that last third story, that health insurance, that pushed me to question my understanding, my current commonly understood agreements with what is normal. So I got into the maze at the time 2006, 2007, when the doctor, the first story, the doctor at Ames, who told me that if I want to see my 30th birthday, I need to lose 30 kilo, but didn't had any good idea like how to do that. And since then, I have been running the maze. I did everything I did. Joined a gym, did some diet plan, and I realized that I was stuck till the second story, 2016. Uh, on a flight from Frankfurt to Delhi, I had to ask for seatbelt extension. And the last one, the third story, when I couldn't even buy or purchase a term insurance policy. That was the trigger point that pushed me to take action and improve my health. So this is the how. So I have a framework to think about it. I walked you through at least the first step of that framework. And you implement what you learn through a 4I approach. So 3A framework is for thinking, and a 4I approach for implementing whatever you have learned. So what I'm talking about, it is not a diet, it's not a meal replacement or magic pill or extreme exercise. It's not portion control or calorie counting. It's not surgery, not medication. So what it is, again, it's a combination of the thinking tool, the 3A framework, and the application through 4A approach. And it will make us aware about that great gap and the great conflict. So it will promote you better decision making. So once you know, then only once you are aware with better awareness, you can take better decisions. And with better decision, you can get better outcome, better results. So this is what this combination of 3A framework and 4I approach is all about. Now, once we apply this, actually, at least once I applied it, and once my friends, family, my clients, they apply it, they get sustainable and exceptional outcome. Outcomes so remarkable that's almost unbelievable. So now let's take a look at what exactly is the 3A framework. So 3A framework is a three-step thinking tool process. It starts with awakening, that is breaking the spell. Just observe, ask, seek answers. You need to shift your paradigm before you cannot act any differently than your self-perception. And I hope that I have walked you at least for the first step with few examples what the breaking the spell looks like. I hope you remember some of those examples. But once you are awake, you need to get the information that is required. So you need to develop the insights from the knowledge. And the third step is knowing is not enough. You have to figure out a way to act on it. You measure, you decide what to do about it, you take a look at the result and learn about it, and then again go back to measuring it. So it's a cycle. So this is how to think, this is how I think about resolving any of my health conditions. A three-step thinking framework, awakening, breaking the spell, occurring from knowledge to insight, and acting. It's a cycle, measure, decide, learn cycle. And this is a way to think about it, but how do you actually implement it? So that is done through a 4I approach. So this is a model of how my thought process helped me, the 3A framework, and how I implemented it, the 4I approach, that helped me move from point A to point B. Now, let's talk about the 4I approach in slightly more detail. 4I stands for intercept, investigate, integrate, and invigorate. I will walk you through each step. But all of these decisions, it will be based on the understanding from the 3A framework. Now, first step is to intercept. So we have to stop the progress of damage from happening anymore. So whatever damage has happened. First, stop the damage from happening. And you can do that once you unlearn the common myths and you identify exactly as a human being how we're supposed to live, and you analyze your past exposome to decide how it applies to you individually. But before anything, stop the ongoing damage. And then you do your root cause analysis, the analysis of the exposome. You look at your past history of your exposome, you analyze, you find out the root cause. I did all of this on my own, first on my own body, then to my family, and then to other people. I mean, I provide the information and they decide if it makes sense or not. So once you intercept, then we move to investigate. So we explore the root cause, understand your unique requirement. Because due to your past, your history, your exposure, everybody is in a different situation. Some things might be common because we have been following the common advice. So a lot of damage will be very similar, but also there are some unique features because everybody's exposure is different. So we investigate and we explore the root cause, trying to figure out your body's unique requirement. So once you do, you have to come up with a personalized plan. So there is no cookie cutter thing. One suggestion will not work on everybody. Some suggestions will work on some people, but there could be very unique suggestions for very specific situations. You have to study your root cause thoroughly, your exposome thoroughly. So you have to come up with a personalized plan based on your first you intercept, you stop the damage, then you investigate, you learn enough about your problem to come up with a personalized plan. Once you have that plan, you have to, understand and integrate that plan with your biology and your day-to-day life. So you have to understand the evolutionary principles, what helped us evolve into what we are today, and you cannot go against it. You have to align or realign your biology, your body to that only. So for that, yes, you have to integrate that. And what I mean that you have to keep on continuing follow-up. You have to continue to care for yourself and you have to follow up. You remember that last part of that 3A framework, measure, decide, learn cycle. So this is where it happens. Continued care and follow up. So once you're done with intercepting the problem right there, stopping the damage, once you're done with investigating the root cause, once you're done with incorporating the evolutionary principles and practices, strategies for change, then you will get the outcome. You will feel like a new person, almost like a new person. I will walk you through those case studies at the end one more time, just to show you what is possible. But yes, so this is the combination of 3A and 4I approach. It worked for me. It worked for a lot of other people as well. So this is how I got out of the maze. Most, or at least many of us, have accepted to be a mere spectator while our health and vitality keep on declining, and we accept that as misfortune of poor health. I mean, we don't have to. We don't have to. Not at least after today. You should be curious enough. You have to start asking questions. But yes, I found my way. I have found a path that helped me, my friends, my family, my loved ones, who found their way using these principles and uh, tools. And my urgency pushed me, and I don't wish it for anybody. You shouldn't wait for that urgency. If you know something is wrong, act on it. Act on it. So yes, I have lived it. I understand your struggle. I have been there. And honestly, it goes much deeper than just weight loss. Obesity is just an indicator that something more sinister uh, is wrong within our body. So I'm not going to share a list of things or actions that we should start or stop doing, because whatever I share will be just some words and will not mean anything to you, let alone be of any use, unless you discover the same yourself. Then only the words will make sense and the words will become wisdom. Change your paradigm first. That will make things easier. So don't please, expect any cheat sheet. There is no cheat sheet. There are actions, there are levers and dials that we can, manipulate and turn our disadvantage into advantage. And that would be very specific for individuals, because your exposure, your past exposure of all these variations, light, temperature, food, exposure to different chemicals. So all these things, past diseases, that will influence how exactly, sorry, exactly what to implement, because how is clear. You have to first change your paradigm. So yes, I think it's quite possible, you know, to change your, trajectory. You can unlock your vitality and you can thrive at every age or any age. It's possible to get great results. And we can write your success story together, right? Now, can you do it on your own? Of course you can. Of course you can do it on your own, right? But if you want me to guide you on a one-on-one basis, you can connect with me uh, over call, WhatsApp, email. So you can take a screenshot or you can just scan it. Hmm. And after this webinar, you will also get one email with a call booking link. Email address is always there. So if you want me to guide you on an individual basis, one-on-one basis, specific to your case, then yes, you can connect with me and we can start working on your transformation. Yeah. So now I'm open for questions. Yeah. So let me know in the Q&A section if you have any specific questions. I will be here for another